When you find yourself in a place where you feel the urge to beg, to chase, to call, or to write constantly, what you're really saying is that your sense of value depends on the response of another person. You're handing over your worth to someone else as if they get to decide whether you're valuable or not. But the truth is, the most attractive thing you can ever do is to stand firm in your own value first. Because when you know who you are, when you know what you bring to the table, you don't need to beg anyone to see it. You don't need to convince anyone to stay. Think about it. When you beg or chase, you're sending a signal that you don't believe you're enough as you are. You're basically saying, please validate me. Please tell me I'm worthy. And that kind of energy always pushes people away. Nobody wants to feel like they are someone's lifeline, like they're responsible for holding up your self esteem. It becomes too heavy, too desperate, too suffocating. And what do people do when they feel that? They pull back, they run. But when you stand in your own value, when you decide you're already enough, everything changes. You become calm, you stop acting out of desperation, you stop feeling like you need to win someone over, and instead you let them experience you without pressure. And here's the secret, that kind of energy is magnetic. When you value yourself, others can feel it. They sense the difference between someone who's clinging and someone who's grounded. The person who's grounded is always more attractive, always more intriguing, always the one people can't quite forget. Valuing yourself also means putting your attention where it truly belongs, on you. Instead of spending endless hours worrying about whether someone is thinking about you, you put that time into building your life, your mission, your health, your growth, your dreams. You become a man or woman who's full, not empty. And fullness is what draws people in. Imagine two cups, one empty, begging to be filled, and the other already full, overflowing. Which one do people want to drink from? Which one seems more inviting? It's always the full one. That's what self value does. It makes you full, and people naturally want to be part of that. And here's something else. When you truly value yourself, you stop tolerating less than you deserve. You stop chasing people who show you half hearted effort. You stop begging for scraps of attention. You realize you're worth consistency, you're worth respect, you're worth love that feels mutual and real. And when you carry yourself that way, you naturally filter out the ones who aren't serious and attract the ones who actually see your worth. It's not about arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone. It's about understanding that your value doesn't need to be proven to anyone. You already have it. You were born with it. When you embrace that, you start living in a way that communicates, I am enough. I don't need to beg for what's mine. If you see my value, great. If you don't, that's your loss. That's the posture of someone who doesn't chase, they attract. So the next time you feel the urge to beg, to chase, to call, or to write endlessly just to keep someone in your life, stop yourself and remember this. The most powerful move you can make is to value yourself first. When you value yourself, the right people will see it, feel it, and respond to it. And the ones who don't, they were never meant for you anyway. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you can ever use when it comes to relationships, attraction, and even respect. Most people don't realize this, but the constant chasing, the nonstop texting, the repeated calls, and desperate attempts to get someone's attention actually do the opposite of what you want. They push people away. They take away the mystery, the curiosity, the space where interest actually grows. But when you hold back, when you choose silence over begging, you give room for something far more valuable to happen. You let curiosity work in your favor. Think about how the human mind works. We are wired to notice absence. When something that was always there suddenly isn't, the brain starts to wonder why. The attention shifts from taking it for granted to wanting to figure it out. So when you stop overreaching, when you're no longer flooding her with texts or calls, you create a vacuum, and that vacuum makes her mind wander toward you. She may not admit it right away, but she's going to notice. She's going to feel the difference. She's going to ask herself questions like, why is he chasing me anymore? Why is he blowing up my phone? Did he lose interest? Did something change? Those questions create intrigue, and intrigue is powerful. Silence also communicates strength. It shows that you're not ruled by desperation, that you're not afraid of losing someone to the point where you'll sacrifice your dignity. It shows control. And control, calmness, composure, these are all things that naturally pull people in. Anyone can text nonstop, anyone can beg for attention, but very few people have the strength to step back and let silence speak for them. That's why it works. It's rare, it's unusual, it makes you stand out from the crowd. Another thing about silence, it gives you clarity too. It's not just about what she thinks when you don't reach out, it's also about what happens inside of you. By not chasing, you break the habit of constant validation seeking. You begin to realize you can be okay even when you're not in constant communication. You start to focus on your own life, your own mission, your own energy. That shift makes you stronger, calmer, and less needy. And ironically, the moment you stop needing that validation, that's when you become more attractive than ever. Imagine two scenarios. In the first one, you're calling, texting, writing, begging, and she knows she's the center of your world. There's no mystery, there's no question. She knows exactly how much you care, and because of that, she doesn't have to think about you. In the second scenario, you're quiet, you're not chasing, you're not begging, you're living your life, focused on your goals. She doesn't know exactly where you stand. She doesn't know exactly what you're thinking. And because of that, her mind begins to fill in the blanks. Which one do you think makes her think about you more? Always the second one. Silence is not about playing games. It's about respecting yourself enough to not overextend. It's about letting the natural dynamics of attraction breathe instead of smothering them with neediness. It's about understanding that sometimes saying nothing is louder than saying everything. People remember silence. They notice when you're not there. They feel the absence. And that feeling creates the space where desire grows. So the next time you feel that urge to beg, to chase, to call, or to write, pause. Remind yourself that silence is not weakness, it's strength. Let it do the work for you. Because when you let silence work, you don't have to chase anyone. They'll come looking for you. When you stop chasing, when you stop begging and calling and writing just to hold on to someone, the best thing you can do with all that energy is redirect it into your mission. This is where real attraction is built. Not by throwing words into someone's inbox or pleading for attention, but by becoming the kind of person who naturally draws people in through purpose. Because here's the truth, people are inspired by someone who has direction, someone who's moving forward, someone who's building something meaningful. If your whole life is revolving around another person, you're sending the message that you don't have anything else of value going on. But when your life is centered around your goals, your growth, your mission, that becomes magnetic. Think about it. We all admire people who are disciplined, people who are focused, people who know where they're headed. That admiration translates into attraction because it shows strength. When you make your mission your priority, you stop needing to beg anyone to stay. You don't have to chase because you're already in motion. You're moving with or without them, and that energy is powerful. It communicates confidence without you even having to say a word. The problem is, so many people pour everything they have into trying to keep a relationship alive instead of pouring it into themselves. They text 100 times a day, they beg for chances, they sacrifice their dreams just to get another minute of attention. But here's what always happens: that kind of energy drains you and it turns the other person off. Why? Because no one is attracted to someone who abandons their own life just to cling to someone else's. It's suffocating, it's desperate, and desperation kills attraction. But the moment you flip the script and focus on your mission, the dynamic shifts. You become harder to get, not because you're playing games, but because your time is genuinely valuable. You have things to do, goals to achieve, places to go. That doesn't mean you ignore someone completely. It just means you don't revolve your entire life around them. And when you carry yourself that way, people notice. They feel it. They see you're not chasing them, you're chasing your own destiny, and suddenly they want to be part of that journey. Focusing on your mission also builds self-respect. Every time you choose to work on your goals instead of begging for attention, you're reinforcing to yourself that you matter. You're telling yourself, my dreams are worth it. My time is worth it. I am worth it. That kind of self-investment builds inner strength, and inner strength is what makes you unshakable. People can sense when someone is grounded in who they are and where they're headed. It makes you attractive on a deeper level because you're not trying to get validation from the outside. You're generating it from within by moving closer to the life you want. And here's the kicker: the more focused you become on your mission, the more options open up to you. Not just in relationships, but in every area of life. Opportunities come to people who are moving, not to people who are sitting still and waiting. So by chasing your mission instead of chasing someone else, you actually create the kind of life that draws the right people towards you naturally. You don't have to beg for love or attention because it comes as a byproduct of who you're becoming. So if you catch yourself about to beg, to chase, to call, or write just to hold someone's interest, stop. Take that energy back and invest it into you. Build your mission. Build your strength. Build a life that excites you, because when you do that, the right people won't have to be begged to stay. They'll want to be there, drawn to you by the power of your purpose. Absence has a way of doing something that words and constant communication never can. When you're always around, always calling, always writing, always chasing, you remove the natural contrast that makes someone truly feel your presence. Human beings often take for granted what's consistently available, but the moment it disappears, the moment there's a gap, that's when appreciation begins to grow. You're like breathing, no one thinks about the air until it's gone. The same thing happens in relationships. When you step back, when you stop flooding her with your time and energy, she finally has the space to notice the difference between life with you and life without you. What most people don't realize is that attraction is built in contrast, not in constant presence. If you're always there, there's nothing to miss. But when you create that emotional contrast by holding back, by giving her silence, by focusing on your life instead of chasing her, you become noticeable in a way you weren't before. She begins to compare. She starts to think about how things felt when you were present versus how they feel now that you're not. That gap, that absence, creates a longing. And longing is a powerful emotion. It pulls people back towards you without you having to beg for it. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about punishing her or playing childish games. It's about understanding human nature. We value what we feel we can lose. We respect what isn't always handed to us. By creating space, you're allowing her to realize your value on her own terms. Because let's be honest, if you're constantly reminding her how much you care, if you're constantly chasing and calling, She doesn't get to discover it herself. It just becomes background noise. But when you step back, the silence itself becomes a mirror. She reflects on what you brought into her life, what she misses, and that contrast makes her appreciate what she once overlooked. Think about the most powerful memories in your life. They're often tied to moments of absence or change. You remember the times when someone wasn't there because it made their presence matter more. The same dynamic is at play here. Your absence allows her to feel the weight of your presence. It transforms you from ordinary to extraordinary because now she sees you differently. She feels the difference. And here's another thing. When you create emotional contrast, you shift the balance of power. Instead of being the one chasing, waiting, and hoping, you become the one who lets her come toward you. You're no longer on the defensive, begging for attention. You're in control of your energy, and that calm confidence is magnetic. She feels the pull not because you demanded it, but because your absence created the space for desire to grow naturally. So the next time you feel tempted to chase, to call, to beg, remind yourself that stepping back is not weakness, it's strength. It's giving both of you the chance to feel the emotional contrast that keeps attraction alive. Don't underestimate the power of absence. It speaks louder than any words you could say. Because when she finally notices the silence, when she finally feels that gap, that's when she realizes the true value of your presence. There's a big difference between pursuing and attracting, and once you understand that, everything changes. Pursuing is when you're constantly chasing, calling, begging, trying to force someone to notice you. Attracting, on the other hand, is effortless. It's when your energy, your confidence, your presence naturally pulls someone in without you having to run after them. And here's the secret. The more you chase, the less attractive you become. But the more you focus on being grounded, strong, and centered in your own life, the more people are drawn to you without you lifting a finger. The reason chasing doesn't work is because it flips the dynamic. Instead of showing strength, it shows need. It screams desperation. It says, I don't believe I'm enough, so I have to prove myself to you. And no one is attracted to that. Think about it. Have you ever been around someone who just keeps pushing, trying too hard to win your approval? It feels heavy. It feels forced. You want space. That's exactly how someone feels when you beg, call, write, or chase them. Your actions say, I need you more than I need myself. And that energy kills attraction instantly. Now, attraction works in the opposite way. When you're not chasing, when you're living your life with purpose and confidence, you give off an energy that people can't ignore. You're calm, centered, and focused on your own mission. You don't need validation because you already validate yourself. That's attractive because it shows strength. It shows you're not trying to fill a void through someone else. You're already whole. And when someone sees that, they feel drawn to it because it's rare. Most people are desperate for attention, desperate to be noticed. But when you're not, you stand out. This is why so many men fail in relationships. They think the harder they try, the more they beg, the more attention they give, the more they'll win someone over. But it doesn't work like that. You don't win someone's heart by overwhelming them with neediness. You win by embodying strength, independence, and calm confidence. You let them feel your value through your energy, not through endless words and actions. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop chasing and start attracting, you create space for the right person to step toward you willingly. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to beg them to care. They care because they feel something genuine from you. Attraction is never about forcing. It's about allowing. And when you're in your strength, you naturally allow others to be drawn to you. Think about the times in your life when you were the most focused on your goals, when you weren't worried about anyone's approval. What happened? People noticed, they admired you, they wanted to be around that energy. That's the law of attraction in action. The moment you stop needing someone and start focusing on being your best self, the right people begin to show up. They come not because you chased them, but because your energy pulled them in. So don't beg, don't chase, don't call or write trying to force interest. Instead, become someone worth chasing. Live your life with purpose. Stand tall in your strength and watch how attraction naturally flows toward you. Because the right person will never need to be begged. They'll choose to be there because they feel drawn to who you are. When you beg, chase, call, or write endlessly, you give away control of your story. You allow someone else to decide how you feel, how you act, and even how you see yourself. But when you stop doing all that and instead maintain control of your energy, everything shifts. You become the one setting the tone. You're no longer reacting to what she does or doesn't do. You're leading from a place of strength. And that's powerful because people are naturally drawn to those who know who they are and refuse to let circumstances define them. Maintaining control doesn't mean you're cold or distant. It means you understand your worth and you're not willing to compromise that just to get a little attention. When you don't blow up her phone, when you don't chase or beg, you're silently communicating, I know my value and I don't need to prove it to you. That calm confidence says more than 1,000 words ever could. It's an energy that can't be faked, and it's an energy that commands respect. Think about it. When you're constantly reacting, you look like you're being controlled by your emotions. She cancels plans and you panic. She doesn't reply and you blow up her phone. That doesn't communicate strength, it communicates insecurity. But when you're in control of your story, you're steady no matter what. If she pulls back, you don't crumble. If she goes quiet, you don't fall apart. Instead, you keep moving forward, focused on your purpose, your mission, and your growth. That kind of consistency shows you're not just confident in words, you're confident in actions. And here's the thing, people test boundaries. They test to see if you'll fold, if you'll lose your center the moment they pull away. But when you stay calm, when you stay centered, when you maintain your story without chasing or begging, you pass the test. And that test is what separates men who are easily forgotten from men who stand out. Because in a world full of guys who give up their power the moment a woman pulls back, you're different. You're the one who stays grounded. Control is attractive because it shows discipline. It shows you're not desperate and you're not living for anyone else's approval. You're writing your own story, and if someone wants to be part of it, they're welcome. But you're not pausing your life to convince them. That mindset changes everything. It creates respect, it creates curiosity, it creates attraction. Because now you're not the guy chasing, you're the guy leading. And here's what happens when you consistently hold your frame. She starts to feel it. She senses that you're not waiting by the phone. You're not sitting around hoping for a text. You're not begging for her attention. You're living your life, and that makes her want to be part of it. That's how you flip the script. Instead of being the one who's always trying to prove yourself, you become the one she has to prove herself to. So don't give away control by chasing, begging, or writing endlessly. Stay centered, stay calm, stay focused on your mission. Because the strongest message you can ever send is not in your words, but in your energy. And when you hold that energy consistently, when you maintain control of your story, you become unforgettable. Because strength isn't in what you say, it's in what you do when everything tempts you to react.